In between the first and second part of Chainsaw Man, Fujimoto released 3 one-shots. But compared to the success of Look Back and Goodbye Eerie, the third and final one, Just Listen to the Song, left a lot of people underwhelmed. Compared to the gigantic and beautiful previous works, this one was short, with only 18 pages and a much more simple and straightforward story. So it's not a surprise that people didn't love it as much. But under it all, Just Listen to the Song makes perfect sense as a companion to these two. As through them we see Tatsuki Fujimoto asking himself the same question over and over again. Why do we create art? Today we're going to explore how Fujimoto explores this question time and time again, and how his one-shots complement one another. But our starting point isn't just listen to the song, or even look back. Instead we need to go one shot back. In 2018, in between the ending of his first realization, Fire Punch, and the beginning of Chainsaw Man, Fujimoto wrote Imouto no Ane. Imouto no Ane depicts the school year of Mitsuko, while a nude painting of hers is showcased in the same school halls, as a winner of a competition between the students. Painting which Mitsuko was never even aware of it until it won, as she never modeled for it. Instead, it was actually painted by her younger sister from memory. As the students now make fun of Mitsuko and ask her very invasive questions about her body, we are left to ponder about the point of the painting. Is it just a crude painting bordering on pornographical of a student? And of course, it's not just that. For the author of the piece, there's a much deeper meaning. This is her older sister, the person that she admired for all her life, that she tried to copy and imitate. She loved her sister so much that she went to the same art school just because Mitsuko was going as well. She learned to paint just to be with her sister, but in doing so, the relationship fractured. Kyoko was better than Mitsuko. Suddenly she wasn't following anymore, she was leading. At least from Mitsuko's point of view she was. But not Kyoko's. Kyoko still admired her sister the most. That's why she drew this painting. After all, the topic was her aspirations. The painting represents all the love that Kyoko still has for her older sister. After learning that, Mitsuko changes her opinion of the piece. She even goes as far as learning everything about nude paintings, trying her best in the field so that the next year she can win the competition and have her nude painting in the school instead. But instead of painting her little sister as some sort of revenge, she instead drew herself again. Why? Well, show her little sister how it's done, to be the teacher, the leading woman that Kyoko wants Mitsuko to be, and to become the best version of herself. These two paintings may seem the same, and to everyone else, they are just the nude body of Mitsuko. But each of them, to their author, represents something much more meaningful. They represent very well the relationship between these two sisters, and it's through them that they can heal and be friends again. So in Imouto no Ane, we explore the meaning of art not for others, not at face value, but instead for ourselves. Why we paint what we paint. Our reasonings and meanings that may not even reach the art itself, but that they are there, all through a painting. Then, Fujimoto spent 2 years working on his most popular manga, Chainsaw Man, but between part 1 and part 2, he wrote the 3 one-shots we are most familiar with, which are the ones that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, starting with 2021's Look Back. Now, I'm not going to explore the entire story of Look Back, as not only is it pretty big, I also already made a video where I resume it and try my best to explain the full thing. There's going to be a link for that in the upper corner and at the end of the video, but I'll go through the relevant points for this video today as well. Look Back is the story of Fujino and Kyomoto, and there are some similarities with Imouto no Ane in terms of topics and story, as in both we see the relationship of two people. One that is perceived to be better than the other, but who doesn't really see it that way. Fujino is introduced as a young manga artist, one that is good enough for her age to be praised by others, praise that she likes to receive, and that's their main motivation to draw. But when Kyomoto enters the scene, she shows an absurd ability to draw. She isn't just good enough for her age, she is amazing for any age in general. And this causes a change in Fujino, as she is not good enough. If her reason to create manga is to be praised, that's not going to happen when she's being compared to someone who is so much better than her. So she needs to evaluate and change the reason why she creates manga if she wants to keep doing it. So she decides that she wants to be better than Kyomoto and works her ass off like never before to still not be as good as her in the end, which leads her to give up on drawing manga. That is, until she actually meets Kyomoto. Turns out that Kyomoto is a massive fan of Fujino. She utilizes her storytelling style and follows every single work of Fujino, and it's clear that it motivates her and gives her moments of happiness. This is the basis for their friendship that blooms, and they even work together in manga. Again, I don't want to get into the entirety of the manga here, so let's move on to the final pages. Here we see a flashback of when Fujino shows the manga script to Kyomoto for the first time. Fujino says that she doesn't really like drawing manga, which prompts Kyomoto to ask her why she does it then. It's the most blatant example of this theme in these one-shots, and it's literally asked directly, but we don't get to see the answer, at least not a spoken one. The following page is Kyomoto reading and laughing and enjoying the manga that Fujino wrote. That's why she does it. These stories can impact people, can help them through tough times and give them courage to go on, or simply give them moments of happiness. It can make them think and see things differently. Stories can have an immense impact on how we are shaped, and that's a powerful and emotional tool. To have the ability to give that to people is amazing and definitely a reason to continue, to go through the hardships that come with creating art. It's fulfilling to both parties. So that's Look Back, which means that it's time for us to go through the toughest and weirdest one-shot to talk about, Goodbye Harry. Now, while Goodbye Harry is definitely the most experimental and confusing of the bunch, I think the message is relatively easy to get. But let's start from the top. We've been through painting and manga, and this time is all about the world of making movies. Goodbye Eerie is a little bit confusing, so let's resume it in a way that makes some sort of sense. This manga is essentially a movie, one that blurs the lines of fantasy and its in-world reality. Yuta, our main character, starts by doing a documentary of his mother's battle with cancer, one that she loses and isn't able to properly film her death like she wished, but instead chooses to end the documentary with a fake explosion to look cool. While everyone hates the movie and finds it to be in bad taste, one person sees the potential in it. Harry decides to train Yuta by making him watch movies, and together they decide to do another one about the fictional Harry, one that is a vampire and dying. Throughout the movie we see that Harry herself truly has an incurable disease and is passing away. The final moments of the manga are weirder and quite beautiful, but I'll leave you to read them by yourself. It truly is very hard to go into detail on this without making a full-on video like I did with Look Back, but I really just want to talk about the same old question of why. Why was the movie on Goodbye Eerie made? Having in mind the amount of backlash that Yuta got even from the first movie, why continue, and why does Harry want her last moments to be filmed? And that is because life is fleeting. We are not vampires, eventually we will pass away. In a very popular quote that may or may not have been said by Bansky, we die twice. One time when you stop breathing, and a second time a bit later on when somebody says your name for the last time. We can't avoid our first death. It will happen sooner or later when we least expect, or sometimes when we do. Just like we try to delay the first, we do the same to the second. At some point everything will be gone and turn to dust, but we can help but want to live the longest time possible, even if just in the memories of people. Or it can immortalize us as we are, or as we want to be. I'm not sure if these videos are going to stay up until after I die, but if they do and you're somehow watching this, then thank you. That means that part of me is still here. It's still meaningful to someone or something. Harry and Yuta's mother want nothing more than to be remembered, than to have their lives mean something, to have proof of their existence in this painful world. In writing Goodbye Eerie and Look Back and Chainsaw Man, I am willing to bet people will be talking about Fujimoto even after he's gone. And even if they aren't, through these works Fujimoto has left definite proof that he existed, that he was here. Can we even ask for anything more than that? And so we reach the end of the line. The final one-shot by Fujimoto so far sees another kind of art being portrayed. Music. I think that's a really good choice. But before we get into why I think it's important for us to dismiss one rumor that I've seen time and time again about this manga. Just listen to songs that work by two mangaka, Tatsuki Fujimoto and Hoto Toda. Having that information and looking at the manga, it's easy to make the assumption that Fujimoto is behind the art. It looks essentially just like his style, whereas the story was a disappointment when compared to its previous works, as I've mentioned before. But Fujimoto was indeed the writer. You can see this information in the credits of the manga, and literally every page that has any information about it. If you still think that Toda is the writer, I'm sorry, but you're just in denial. We need to accept that Fujimoto just wanted to do something shorter. It's fine. Just Listen to the Song is about a guy who I think is never named, who uploads a song confessing his love for his classmate on YouTube. Not only is he rejected, but she shares the video with the students at the school, and that leads the video to become accidentally viral. This leads to a lot of people watching the song and video and start to find new stuff in it. Things like ghosts and cats and reversing the song, and they end up going through a rabbit hole of theories of the real meaning of the song and giving way too much importance and depth. They trick themselves into thinking this guy is a genius, and when he's finally peer pressured to release another song called Just Listen to the Song, people are unable to find the same level of depth and quickly lose interest in him. It's at the end that we learn what the songs are actually about. They both talk about the time where he sketched a girl he liked in middle school. More so than being another question of why does one make art, this one is more so about the distinction between why we make it, our own personal reasons that he explored throughout the last 3 one-shots versus what people will perceive to be our reasons and meanings. Once a piece of art is out there, it's out there. It's no longer yours, not in the same way that it was before you posted it publicly. It now belongs to everyone, and everyone will consume it differently based on their own situations and experiences, and what they take away from it will be unique to them. This brings me to a topic that my philosopher and YouTuber friend and podcast partner, my name is Lofi, likes to talk about: the death of the author. The Death of the Author is an essay by Roland Barthes that defends that the meaning of a work is not hinged on what the author meant it to be. Instead, we are free to consume and gather our own meaning from a work by ourselves. As long as that meaning is coherent with the story that is being told, it doesn't matter if the author intended it to have it or not, or even if such a meaning goes against the author's own beliefs and personal ideals. And Just Listen to the Song, that would mean that if the song Reverse somehow talks about guns in America, then the meaning of the Reverse song, for those looking for that, is guns in America. Despite the fact that the guy who made the song had no control on how it would sound when reversed. Some people will like this idea, while others won't. But Fujimoto explores it and the problems it can have for the author, especially when it comes with expectations. If you put a meaning to work that the author hasn't and you expect him to follow up on that, it's a recipe for disappointment. But I don't think Fujimoto outright says it's a bad thing. But on the other hand, that might just be me interpreting the story how I want it to be. After all, this entire video is about exploring what I think Fujimoto put in these works. I might be doing the exact same thing that people did in Just Listen to a Song, and just be reaching for straws. But yeah, it's funny to me that Fujimoto decided to go with music as the medium for this one. Because the thing that happens with this dude has happened in real life hundreds of times in music history. I think the most prominent example is the old Paul is Dead theory. That theory saw people looking and finding clues in Beatles music, videos, album covers, books, interviews that quote-unquote proved that Paul McCartney was dead all along. It's easy for us to find the meaning that we are already looking for, to fall for the confirmation bias and grabbing only the parts of the story that fit the narrative that we want it to fit. There's millions of themes in a single story, ones that the author wanted you to have and others that he might not even have thought about. But I think we need to somehow be careful to not trample all over the author's own intentions. It's a line that is hard to know where to draw, and I'm definitely not the guy with the answer for it. But yeah, I find it interesting that Fujimoto picked music for this one. I mean, I assume he likes music, I think everyone should. But we know that he started as an oil painter, and then he moved to manga, and he's also a known cinephile. It makes sense that he would try to explore those mediums in his manga. But the timing of these is also important. Moro no Ane came right after his first realization and his first success. His first taste of what it is to be a professional mangaka. You have thousands upon thousands of people finding and reading your work. And after that, he wrote Chainsaw Man. It's currently being regarded as one of the best new faces of his working space. His manga is currently being read by millions of people all over the world. People loving it, people hating it, people making YouTube videos on it, and people making YouTube videos on people making YouTube videos on it. I think it's nothing more than normal that he wants to explore this question of why am I still doing this at this point? Because creating something, that takes a toll on you. Even if you're still just writing some stupid short horror story in a notebook that only you and your mom will ever read, that still takes time and effort, and you still reach midpoint and still think that it sucks and that you suck and that everything is pointless and you sit there and thinking like, goddamn screen, wondering why anyone would even care, if it even matters if they care or not, and why, oh god, why are you still here trying to create something? And the thing is, the answer to this question isn't going to be found in these manga, because there is no one answer. Fujimoto can keep making these one-shots and explore infinite reasons as to why people even try, because the reasons can't be found externally, only internally. Each and every one of us have our own reasons unique to us. Even me making these videos in this channel, I do them because of me and because of you and all the reasons why I would want to make this and all the reasons why you'd want to watch it. Fujimoto isn't here to give you the answer. Rather, I think he's just questioning himself, and I hope that through this journey he has found the why. And that's it. On my left there is that look back video I talked about, and on the right there is a playlist with all my Chainsaw Man and Fujimoto videos. You should go check them out. And if you watched it through here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.